start today discussing some of the top headlines. Great to have Tom Swarbrick and Sayeeda Warsi with us. Tom, I've just been away with some of my male friends for a 50th birthday trip.
Congratulations.
On the aeroplane as we flew to Ireland, as someone opened the first tin, and it was too early, really. The guy behind me leant over and started quoting your speech at me on the aeroplane.
It's a movement.
Yes.
Well done, everyone. Well done, guys. Hey, well done on going on the lads' trip.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was really special.
I know you're 50, obviously. We've heard a lot about it.
Have I mentioned that?
Yeah. What's your biological age now? The men's health things come out, and we all know that you look about 25 or something.
Funny you Sayeeda looks furious.
It's like, thanks, mate. You put us all in the shade with that.
I'm going to... Well, when Davinia comes in, we're going to talk about it and how you actually measure your biological age. I don't know, to all intents and purposes.
I think this is the moment we have we have to show.
Oh, for God's sake.
I mean, come on.
Let's see it again.
Can we just show this? I mean, what is this?
What
I
happened?
saw this.
Did you bring that in yourself?
I need... You know what?
She's got
Can you sign it? Yeah. Ben, I need proof this is real.
So we can sort that out for you.
We need to see that. I
at a later
cannot...
date.
Live on air, though, not during a commercial break.
Someone messaged me yesterday saying they were in the queue at Tesco's and there was a 70-year-old woman who had a copy of Men's Health, and as she put it down, the young person looked at her, so inquisitively said, "It's for my grandson," and then winked at him. So proud! So proud. Anyway.
It's the favourite.
What she was doing, though, she was using the checkout.
Right.
Well,
She put the Men's Health through the checkout and she paid for it.
Right.
Are you self-servicers in the supermarkets, or are you...
Well, I am, because you've got no real choice, because the queue for the person, there's only one person and it's always busy. So you have to go to the self-checkout. That's what the supermarkets have told you to do. But, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of shoplifting going on through those self-checkouts because people aren't checking it out themselves.
We are a nation of self-service checkout thieves, according to
So we have 37% of supermarket shoppers deliberately fail to scan at least one item, we're told. This is 1,000 Brits polled. 32.5% admit to incorrectly weighing loose items to lower their bill. What a surprise. I mean, what do we want? If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. If there aren't enough people to be able to scan the thing, then people are going to try and nick it. And the other part of this, I'm afraid, is that whilst not being decriminalised, it is still a criminal offence to shoplift. It's only a sort of summary offence if you nick below 200 quid's worth. You can get a penalty order from the police or whatever. But the police aren't there to be able to do it. So you're getting so many shoplifting offences being committed of under 200 quid because it is, in effect, unpoliceable.
But are we effectively saying that we're only a decent nation if we're going to be policed? I don't think we should be that nation. We should be prepared to say that we are honest, decent people as a nation, and we shouldn't have to be policed and watched over before as we're
so
shopping.
you're going to dog people in?
No, and this is the issue that I have concerns about. What they're now saying is what you should be doing when you're at this self-service checkout is look at the person next to you and see, I mean, what, are we going to become a nation of snitchers?
No way.
We should just step back from all of this and say, when was it OK just to steal? When was it OK just to be dishonest? When was it OK to do these things at the self-service checkout?
Well, we were talking during the meeting, weren't we? And there's a certain producer who works on this show that has had difficulty with the label before and has been known to put an avocado into the bag.
If the label's tricky to scan, the queue behind you. I mean, it's sometimes more complicated if you're trying to work out how you've weighed individual items as well. So slides one in. Some of the team maybe don't pay for the bags. You know, you have to pay extra for it if you say you've got a bag.
Sorry, is this admitting to acts of enormous theft?
Yes.
On the
Yes,
God, I didn't realise.
What kind of team do we work with?
I don't know. There's an extraordinary number of
You know who you work with?
vagabonds.
The person who queues up for the checkout. I love the checkout.
Because you love the chat.
I love a chat. I'll queue for the checkout. And before I get to the checkout, I'll have a chat to the person behind me or in front of me. But sometimes behind me is usually Richard Maiden.
You would be the sort of person who'd be stood behind me going, oh, for
Get on with it.
We just get through this. That's why self-service checkouts were the best thing. I think it's Home Bargains. Was it Home Bargains, Johnny? Where they put... there's a sign-up saying there's a £500 reward if you spot someone shoplifting.
Oh, really?
So they're actually putting signs up now saying there's rewards for you.
I don't know how I feel about that.
£500 is a lot of money, right? If you spot someone shoplifting and they get caught, then you get a reward.
But isn't that the point? Who's catching them? Because, you know, I'm not having a go at the police. They have a very, very difficult job. Someone nicks 2 loaves of bread out that they don't bother to scan it, or
an avocado,
whatever. What are we expecting the police to do? Are we expecting the police to turn up, blues and twos on 2 guys get out? Well, Yes and no, really. I guess it's an expectation of what do we actually want. We don't want people to nick. We don't necessarily want them to dob them in, but we don't really expect the police to be there every single time.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be resolved through technology. I think there will come a time when you have your receipt and the products that you've got in your bag, and as you walk out the front door, it will beep.
It will scan it.
I think technology will resolve this.
OK, well, you have trust in technology, but not everybody does, apparently, because almost half of young people, 16 to 21-year-olds, classed as young, would rather live in a world where the internet does not exist, according to new research.
I have trust in technology, but I want a blackout.
So you would take it?
I want an internet blackout. I would love to have a moment where everything goes down and we can't do anything about it. Probably for a few weeks, maybe over the summer, maybe the whole of August. I just think we have to get off line. I honestly think
get
this
offline
is
then.
Huge. I can't because we've still got the internet. You need to arrange a blackout. You need to speak to somebody and arrange this blackout.
We are not having a nationwide August-long blackout. This is an insanity. If people want to get off the internet, you can choose to come off the internet. It is a real problem. Social media and young kids, real problem. Very addictive, real issue. But I think that's what we mean when we talk about the internet. We are talking about, in the main, social media being a problem. We're not talking about, oh, it's really useful, I can get my shopping delivered, or I can get a cab at 3 minutes' notice, or I can find where I'm going on the maps or whatever. Imagine that turning off. That'd be insane.
Yeah,
well, don't throw us back to the 70s, Varsi.
I think the harms... Oh, there was something really nostalgic about the 70s. The harms created, I think, by social networks for young people, the way in which we are addicted to social networks is really disturbing. We have to start talking about this, and we have to find a way where, over time, we're educated out of the kind of scroll culture that we've got into.
But surely isn't there a bit of a halfway house between a total blackout in August when it could be raining? Oh, gosh, that's going to be terrible. Half of the 16 to 21-year-olds would support a digital curfew that would restrict their access to certain apps and sites past 10 p.m, which sounds like a good halfway house.
I think the Technology Secretary has said that the government are considering.
Yeah, half of 16 to 21-year-olds, I think 100% of parents. 100% of parents would go, do you know what, if this was taken out of my hands and handed over to the state and the state did it, then, well, you know, sorry, kids, but government... Do you know what I mean? They'd have someone else to blame for the fact that the child couldn't get on. And I do think we will look back in 25 years' time when someone's figured out what to do about all of this, and we'll chastise ourselves for the experiment we carried out on the teenage years of an entire generation. The effects of which we're not going to know, but are mainly bad for their mental health, for socialising, for all the rest of it. And we're going to be very, very sorry that we engaged in this experiment without controls in place for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But your concern, though, Sayeeda, is they would find a way around it?
I think they'd find a way around it. I know that every time we try to do things with our kids and social networks, you know, as one of them reminded me the other day, we followed them on Snapchat when Snapchat was the kind of big thing. We even called ourselves parent police to follow them, so their friends knew we were following them. And they said, you do realise when we posted things that you wouldn't like, we didn't want you to see, we just blocked you for that particular post. So
that's so good.
We didn't know that at the time. So they would find a way around it. I genuinely think we have to start talking about this in the way that we talk about alcohol abuse, in the way we talk about cigarettes and tobacco. This is a form of...
We don't have a blackout of alcohol in August.
No, but...
Thank God.
When the football starts...
I'm straight out of the country.
Single-handedly holds up the economy during football tournaments, doesn't it? The alcohol. Let's talk voice notes as well.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, I mean, as somebody who loves the chat, I'm amazed that you hate a voice note. You'd rather have a text message.
Yeah,
but isn't a voice note like a digital chat?
Oh, she constantly is voice noting me and starts every message with deals. I know you hate this, but
she texts me and says, I'm going to send a voice note to Dealey.
Fuming.
So you don't like them? Are you pro or...
I'm very anti them.
Yeah,
I can't bear... I don't want to hear your sort of general ramblings and your, oh, there's a butterfly, oh, there's a bird, oh. No, I want clear, concise, bullet point messages. This is what you need to do. You need to hand this into the dry cleaners and then you need to pick it up here. Because otherwise I'm just not going to do it to my lovely wife.
With the children.
Otherwise,
pick the children up.
I'm not going to do it.
Sayeeda?
I like voice notes. I'll tell you why I like them, because there are lots of people that I don't particularly want to speak to, and I'm sure they don't want to speak to me. And voice notes are a good way of communicating quite a lot of information without having to have a phone call. And it also avoids having to do all the kind of stuff before and after that you think you have to be nice to them before and nice at the end of it.
Oh, wow.
You just got the information in middle.
I'd love to know who's just received a voice note from you. Sayeeda's on the actually, she hates you.
Servo by Sky Mobile, 60% claim they have experienced voice note fatigue.
Yeah.
44% listen to them at double speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I listen to podcasts now at double speed. Just get through it. Let's turn it up. Yeah. 1.5, let's go.
But a lot of them, 68%, like you, Sayeeda, feels like it's a phone call without the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the original voice notes used to be voice cassettes. I was talking to you about this earlier. So years, like decades ago, when we were growing up, where you couldn't make contact with places around the world, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all of those places, families would record whole cassettes where the whole family would sit down, everything, all the updates would be given, what was going on in the family. You could hear everything in the background, the, animals, crops crowing, cows mooing, and then it would all turn up here, and the tape would be open.
So you'd send it to the tape.
To it. We'd all sit round and listen to it, and then we'd record one and we'd send
it
back to our...
And you want that for your children now?
Yes, exactly.
We
want to go back to
the entire nation is going to buy cassette tapes on
there's a whole kind of generation of these tapes that exist from stories that were passed backwards and forwards in the 70s and 80s.
That's slightly woman fuzzy.
The original voice notes.
A bit like cuddling. Are you a cuddler?
I am a cuddler.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. I feel like, do you know those vacuum cleaners that you get and lawnmowers these days that go out and do all this vacuum cleaning on their own, and then they come back and they're settling to their docking station.
So you feel like that's a cuddle?
Cuddle, that's what I
you can't call it, you can't call it a docking station. I'm really sorry. I don't know if that's... I don't know whether we're...
If we're talking about cuddling into your docking station...
Oh, wow, OK.
I'm a docking station.
And you've got your little magazine there. There he is. There's your docking... That's the docking station you really want, I think,
Somebody's got this docking station, haven't they?
Trust me, the person that does is not remotely interested in having a cuddle, because the point is a cuddle just before you fall asleep, apparently, Tom, is the secret to a happy relationship. We're not talking sort of physical intimacy. We're just talking about actually having a nice
cuddle
connection.
Before you go to bed, absolutely, and night, absolutely great. At that point, I'm an island. I want a demilitarised zone. I want an area of non-conflict between everything. I have to have my own space. If one of the children comes into the bed in the middle of the night, I create a kind of pillow fort around them. They are separated from it. I won't have anyone near me. I don't want to be touched. I just want to sleep. I don't want anything. Right?
I'm
that's
quite
it.
shocked about that.
Why?
I thought you'd be quite a softie.
No, I am.
There's so much of you as well. Your arms and legs are so long. How do you
there's a lot going on.
But
what I won't have, I can't do, and it's a lie, it's a complete lie that people actually fall asleep all curled up like... that's a lie. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's like, oh, yeah, so it's not romantic, it's annoying.
You will cuddle your kids
But my problem is that then I fall asleep before I actually get to my own bed, which is... So I'm so cuddly and so, like,
connected.
And then I wake up and I've still got my mascara and I've been dribbling down my face and it's 2 o'clock.
You wouldn't wake up in the morning like that?
Dribbling with
mascara. With your clothes on and with your child. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has to roll away and find their own space. That's all part of it.
Yeah, but I think you would do that naturally anyway. So I think the cuddling kind of period is nice. Sometimes I fall asleep in that position, but at some point in the night I will wake up and kind of find my own space.
Go and find your docking station.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Thomas, for the sake of Mrs. Swarbrick,
yes.
it's suggested that a pre-sleep cuddle, even a brief one, might help both partners feel a little more connected and a little less on edge.
Doesn't need to just be a cuddle, but I agree.
No. This is for her sake, just a little connection before, and then you can create the demilitarised zone.
Yeah. Relationship advice from Ben Shepherd.
I love this very, heated
I feel like you've given us men so much over the last few weeks that has really cut through internationally that this is something that Mrs. Swarbrick might benefit from.
It's a movement.
There is definitely something moving.
I feel like we're going to talk about TVs in jails. Prison officers at youth jails have been told to look at other options of punishment after taking TVs away is said to cause frustration and instability. Isn't that the idea, though?
I honestly think that this type of change is what frustrates millions of people about the country they find themselves living in. Because, don't know about you, but if my children do something that I don't want them to do, or if they don't do the thing that I ask them to do, one of the ways in which we compel them to do it is So you're not going to have the TV now, or you're not going to have your iPad, or you're not going to have this, that and the other. You remove the privilege in order to get them to do the behaviour. But apparently in prisons, it's indecent. Literally, the description, the quote is, we help drive safety through decency. It is indecent to remove a television from a violent criminal who is in prison. Now, I think that is genuine insanity. In the same way that I think that the debate that was held about prison officers in Young Offenders Institute with some very violent criminals in there, not allowed to use pepper spray or being given pepper spray to protect themselves because apparently the people wearing lanyards and ties don't believe that it would lead to a reduction in violence in the prison. What is that prison officer meant to do if there is a violent criminal running at them with a weapon? Are they just meant to plead with them not to do it? It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think there are two other issues to all of this. First of all, we are living in a crazy world where in this country, if you go into a hospital and you want to access television, you have to pay for it, to have it by your bedside. So you actually can't have television in hospital as patients, but you can have television as prisoners. And also, you know, people could say, well, in hospital, you can watch your phone. Well, no, have you ever been to a hospital? There's no Wi-Fi. So in many ways, this is a crazy world. But if we are not putting enough prison guards in place and the only way to keep a wing calm is to have them watching television, it must be cheaper to give them television that have lots more members of staff policing them all. So I think until we have proper processes and proper staffing in place, and we're finding it incredibly difficult to staff these prisons properly, then if TV is what keeps them calm, then
just
that's what...
placating people.
I get called by prison officers when we talk about these things quite a lot on the show on LBC. One of the things they said, and I honestly did a double take on this, was that they aren't allowed to wear stab vests because to wear stab vests in a prison would be seen as too militaristic for the prisoners who are in there. I'm sorry, but when did the worries and concerns of the prisoners in there outweigh the protection of the prison officers who are putting themselves in harm's way alongside some very violent people, as we have seen very recently? When did that happen?
It's really interesting because we did this earlier on in the week. We were talking about attacks on prison officers being on the up. And we had Ryan, who'd been in a Young Offenders Institute, who was set upon, and he's had a long-term brain injury, doesn't blame the children, as he called them in that Young Offenders Institute. And we had Raphael, who'd served 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, who goes into all of these prisons. Talking about going to Scandinavia. When you go into a Scandinavian prison, the prison officers shake your hand, they welcome you to the prison. He said the attitude and the atmosphere in a prison where it is done in a holistic way, where it's done in a respectful way, is dramatically different than the attitude where there's lots of guards with guns, with stab vests, and that's first-hand experience that he's...
If you're working in a prison where there have been incidents of prison officers being stabbed, having their throats attacked, all manner of violent incidents, and the prison officers are saying, do you know what, we'd really like to be able to wear a stab vest every now and again, give it to them. Well, I don't understand why apparently there is a body of thought in this country that goes, no, we're going to leave it because forget it, do it.
You could still shake someone's hand.
Ultimately, I think the system that you've just spoken about, Ben, is the right system. If we can turn people's lives around because of the way we treat them in prison, because it has to be a combination of, you know, punishment and rehabilitation, that is the right way, because as we keep saying, overwhelmingly the number of people who go to prison are people who've been to prison before. So prison isn't working in its current form. It has to be made to work. But until we can make the system work like that, we have to protect the guards.
Yeah,
exactly.
Ali was at Chelsea yesterday. There's a garden at Chelsea one of her friends has been working on, and it's been working with women who have been through this amazing project in female prisons where they get taught horticulture and they make these gardens. There's a garden at Chelsea that does this. They have had a zero reoffending rate for any of the women that have been through that scheme.
Sure.
So if you can find the right rehabilitation scheme that offers them some learning or some help or some holistic way of dealing with whatever it is they're going through, you can rehabilitate prisoners.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. But you aren't going to get the prison officers to do the rehabilitation if there are people working in prisons who don't feel safe.
And actually, you could not take their television away, but you can make sure that the only things they could watch when they've not been behaving themselves is educational programmes.
So
they can't just have entertainment, restrict what they actually get to see on the television at that time.
Right, let's talk about brushing your teeth. I didn't think there was any question about this personally, but the right time to brush your teeth. When do you brush your teeth, Tom, in the morning?
I cannot do anything until I've brushed my teeth in the morning. So it is the first thing I go... Get up, straight to the... brush away. Thanks very much.
Sayeeda?
Begin the day.
So your first thing. You?
I normally do it after I've had a coffee.
So you will consume something, you will do something...
Because otherwise it feels like the coffee doesn't taste right, which it probably doesn't, because there's loads of germs in it.
There's a long-held question, which is, do you brush your teeth before or after breakfast?
Yeah.
They finally said it is before breakfast is when you should do it. I get up, and this is probably a hangover from working next door and getting up super early, where everything has to be really efficient. I brush my teeth in the shower, because I give myself so little time to get up and ready.
Let's give you that visual, Tom
So
Swarbrick.
I'm shower, brush your teeth, because that's 2 minutes.
This might be too much for Sayeeda. Do you realise this might actually overwhelm Sayeeda at this stage?
But
it's all zesty fresh.
I'm always thinking as efficient as I possibly can be first thing in the morning. So I'd never consume breakfast and then brush my teeth.
Yeah, but I couldn't imagine eating anything without...
I wouldn't do that, but I'd have a coffee.
Again, which is wrong.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I know.
I love the telling off you're getting.
The minimum time needed between food and brushing was 30 minutes or longer. This may be hard for most people to grab breakfast before rushing out of the house.
Oh, well, who's got 30 minutes?
Well, that's the minimum time, apparently. Just saying.
Okay.
We're getting it wrong. Try it in the shower, Sayeeda.
There you go. Migraines. Do either of you get migraines?
I do. I've had them all my life.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I have had them since my 20s.
They're horrible,
They're
aren't they?
horrible.
I think I may have found the secret, according to TikTok.
So I have had this meal for 25 years.
Yep.
Chips and Coke or chips and a fizzy drink is something that I have had to cure my migraine for years. I wish I'd put it on TikTok. I've got it gone viral. And interestingly, my family have always seen it as a reason for me to have chips. They just say, oh, it's just an excuse. If you want chips, just have chips. Why do you need to have an excuse? Exactly. And I have always said this has worked. And to the point where as soon as I get a migraine, somebody in the family will rush out, get some chips, drive through, whatever it is.
So TikTok and Millie Hancock put this video up and put the theory to say she tried some chips and a Diet Coke, but she had a headache for 48 hours and TikTok said it would help. Later confirmed it had made her feel better. It's been dubbed the McMigraine Meal.
Wow. I fortunately don't suffer from migraines, but man, the hangovers get worse as you get older. So every now and again, the red and white ambulance comes to the rescue, and a full fat Coke.
Yes. Shall I tell you what else works? I'll tell you what else works on a migraine. And by the way, I am not a doctor, so anybody listening in, take no notice of this. We'll listen to the real medical advice in a minute. Yeah. But the other thing that does work for me is wasabi neat. You know when you get wasabi and it goes, yes, and it blows your head. Something about having a migraine.
Enough for you to
Oh, God,
how much wasabi do you need? An entire packet?
Literally kind of a,
mainlining wasabi.
Tiny bit. Wow. In straight. And what it does is, I don't know whether it kind of stricts everything or just opens up the sinuses or what it does, but that feeling of going...
Well, let's ask Dr. Hussain, who is here. So there's two things then, Hussain. The McMigraine Meal, the sweet and sour. I mean, obviously it's something that Sayeeda's used for years to help hers. Is there something in that for someone with a migraine?
Yeah, I'm under strict instructions by Sayeeda to confirm that that's correct. So what we have here is a carbohydrate source, some caffeine in the Diet Coke, and hydration. And yes, they have all been shown to help alleviate migraines. And one of the key things to consider, even before the migraine comes on, for migraine sufferers, which is really debilitating, try to avoid long periods of fast. So whether it be at work and you're very busy, try and have on hand a meal. Now, it doesn't have to be fries and Diet Coke. It can be any carbohydrate source with a bit of saltiness and then some hydration. And yes, if you want to take caffeine in addition, there's evidence to support that. But that can be very beneficial, but it doesn't have to be fries.
And what about wasabi? Now, is there any medical evidence to support wasabi being the cure?
Do you know what? Sayeeda actually mentioned this to me in the green rooms. I had a very quick look at if there are any randomised control trials on wasabi and migraines, and unfortunately, there are not. But
we've got one here. We've got one here.
Again, exactly. Some researcher out there needs to take this on and research it.
And I think what I said to Sayeeda, and I'll say to all patients, is that if you find something unique for yourself that helps you with either avoiding the trigger or alleviating the migraine, absolutely, as long as it's safe, something like that, a food source, then go for it.
Oh, so a few chips and some wasabi, you're well away.
Yeah.
What a meal
that is. Perfect excuse.
What a meal. Yeah, drive-through. That's what you need when you get a migraine.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.